Do you see it on your side?
Yes, we are live. We're live.
O-
Oh, hello.
Okay. Welcome, welcome everyone to another Facebook Live with Dr. Nelva Bryant. My name is Greta Russo, and this is Dr. Bryant. Dr.
Hi.
Bryant, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We were a little bit nervous because our guest, Dr. Sprinkle, is in a traveling mode right now, and she's going to share what she's been through. But she's joining us today. I'm very excited she's with us. I'm Dr. Bryant, Nelva Bryant. I'm a veterinarian, and I work in the airline industry. I work with Delta Airlines, and I've been on staff with them since 2018 timeframe. And brought on staff to help review and revise the policies for animal transportation. And we're looking at just more than just dogs and cats traveling by air. We're talking about numerous animal species that are transported by cargo. And in the United States, it's actually kind of challenging because of the transportation of animals by air is regulated when it's going by cargo. So you got to keep abreast to all the different regulations based upon the various type of animals, because in the US, it's not just one federal agency that's regulates the transportation of animals. You've got USDA, you have that's US United States Department of Agriculture takes care of a lot of the animals. Then you also have US Fish and Wildlife Services, and then you have CDC that jumps in there, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for dogs coming into the country or other animals coming to the country. So it is a lot to keep the airline abreast to and ensure compliance with. So that's what I do for Delta. I'm very excited in that role. And aside from that, what I've been doing is from the insight that I've gained from working in the airline industry, I developed When Pets Fly as my platform to share pet-centric travel education, because I've seen a lot of things as far as people traveling with their pets. And I've seen ways that pet owners can actually get better prepared to transport the animals by air. So that's what my platform shares, pet-centric travel education. And that's what I've been doing these past few years. I think I started that during the pandemic, and Greta joined me a year later, and we have Zoomed. We've got a website that's at www.whenpets.com. We have presence on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We have a YouTube page. And did I say? Yeah, it did say website. But we have grown significantly. And our newest thing that I'm excited about is that we are now a mission partner with AHA, the American Association of Animal. I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. American Association of, oh gosh, American Animal Hospital Association. There we go. AHA. We are actually mission partners with them. So I'm very excited about that opportunity. So that's who I am. That's what I've been doing these past few years. And Greta is my right hand. So please, Greta, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Greta Russo, and I help out with the marketing and social media and all of that good stuff. But it's been an exciting adventure, and in watching When Pets Fly grow and seeing how far our reach is going around the world. So that's what I do.
No, that's good. And you shared with me earlier today, our reach is really going significantly. We're not just US based any longer. We have followers. And I remember we had someone, because I had someone that was helping me with marketing who was out of the Philippines. So we have a presence in the Philippines, over in Europe with UK, Nigeria. You said recently what was added South Africa, and I forget the other you said was added, but we're almost worldwide. Basically, that folks listen to the information that we share. So it's very exciting, very very exciting.
Yeah, lots of countries around the world, and as well as several states and cities in the United States. So it's exciting to watch it grow. I remember in the beginning when we were just in the United States, besides the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, we just kept expanding. So, there definitely is an international interest in traveling with your pet, mostly with cats and dogs, of course, but horses travel internationally as well. whether it be for shows or even the Olympics.
Mhm.
But horses are pets, and then of course within the United States, traveling around. So even though we focus on flight and everything, sometimes we'll dabble on cars, because even when you're on your trips, you still have to know what to do when your cat or dog is in the car. Um, but before we bring Dr. Sprinkle out and we talk more about nutrition and keeping up a good nutrition while you're traveling, I just wanted to mention, since it's the summertime, summertime has more, even though it's a fun time, it has more things for especially dogs to get into that you have to be aware of as a pet parent. Especially in the United States. So one thing I wanted to bring up is, please be aware of blue-green algae that is in water outside that can form in your ponds and your lakes. And it's mostly in water that stands still. And it looks exactly what the name says, which is like a blue-greenish thing. That algae is a no bueno. It will make your dog sick, and if they're jumping into those waters, they can take that in their mouth and then have all kinds of issues to deal with. So just, if you can, keep your dog away from water that has that residue on there. But have you seen this before, Dr.
Yeah,
Bryant?
yeah, that's really it's a bad situation. I definitely would recommend, if you say, if you're hiking, you're taking your dog to a beach, you're hiking and there's streams and lakes, and um, please don't let them drink that water. We don't drink it. You wouldn't go up to a lake and just get a sip of the lake water unless it's a spring that you know that is fresh spring and it's safe to drink. Most places you go to, the water is not safe for us to drink. So if it's not safe for you to drink, you don't want your dog to drink it as well. There's parasites that could be in there. There's, as Greta mentioned, blue-green algae. All these things can have a negative impact on their body when ingested. So don't let them drink that. It's standing waters. Even if you're out and there's other things. You got blue-green algae. You got parasites. You got leptospirosis, bacteria that's actually excreted, I believe, in the urine of rodents that can contaminate water sources and cause problems with your pet. So you don't want that to happen. So yeah, I agree with you. But yeah, main thing is carry your own water source if you can. It makes me think of our good friend that has spleesh. Put water in a spleesh or something. Carry your own water source for your pet when you're out and about, because you don't want them to drink standing water or any waters like that. So not healthy at all.
Yeah.
And when I say
And then
healthy,
also,
it can lead to death. So I'm not saying just, oh, it's not good. It can actually lead to death. So don't do it, please.
yeah, yes, absolutely. And then also, if you're, this heat will, and, a lot of dogs, they will run around and not realize their limitations in this heat. And so they're panting, and you're like, you want to give them a drink of water. Well, I don't own a dog right now, but I didn't realize that when your dog is panting and panting, you don't just push a bowl of water in front of them, that there's steps before you give them the water. I think I read that if they're really panting, you wait for them to calm down for about 30 minutes, and then give them the drink of water, because if you give it to them beforehand, they'll get bloat, and that will be more dangerous than anything. So, Dr. Bryant, can you explain this a little clearer to everyone so that they know what to do?
It's interesting. There's a lot of information out now on social media, and it's great because you see these little clips or reels of people just sharing what can happen with pets, as far as with dogs, as far as being overheating. You don't want them to gulp the water down. You want, well, in that process and everything. You really, actually, this time of the year, down here in Atlanta, I don't know elsewhere, but down here, it's 90 and above. So you need to limit their exposure outside, number one. The ground is going to be a lot warmer than you think. So you want to walk your dog during the coolest part of the days, so early morning and late evenings, and limit the amount of time they're outside, because again, they can get overheated. And again, I guess your first thought is to make sure they have all this water, but that's not ideal either for them to go through drinking too much water at one time, because it could lead to bloat. They can twist their stomach and bloat, and now you have another medical issue on your hands. So, and also with overheating, heat, they can get heat stroke, and that can lead to death too. So, you just have to be really careful this time of year with this heat with your pet. Just limit the amount of time they're outside and their exposure to the heat.
Absolutely. And the last thing I wanted to mention very quickly, which I did not realize, oh my God, I'm over 50 and I just learned all these new things. But did you know that cats and dogs and horses can get sunburn? I didn't know. I really didn't. So this is primarily for the white fur coats, the light color fur coats, especially if an animal has a pink nose or pink lips, but they can get sunburned, and they have their own sun protection. All of these animals, you can go to the store or Chewy and purchase sun protection. So if you have a white cat, a white dog, a white horse, or light colored, anyone with a pink nose, all of these things need sun protection. Dr. Bryant, did you? Now you probably heard of it. I'm just the only one that do this.
In fact, you made me think of number one. Also, don't forget the hairless breeds too. Dogs or cats that are hairless. Yeah. They're very, very sensitive, so we definitely have to protect them. But you made me think of also, as far as their sun exposure, you make me also think about potential of them getting cancer, squamous cell carcinomas of these, sometimes white, they can get that. So it just makes you think of cancer too. So watch the exposures on them in reference to that, because sunburn, and then also, again, the cancers can happen on their skin as well in those certain breeds, particular breeds. So be careful. So it really, it's same as with us. We can't be out in the sun and think that we're protected. We have to protect ourselves, and same as with your pets. You have to consider that as well with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely research, find out. I probably would look into an all natural sunblock. I'm sure that's out there, but definitely make sure you get something to help the hairless and the light colored fur animals with sunblock. Mm-hmm. So now that we've done all that and given Megan some time to calm down and relax after running and get in front of the camera. Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Dr. Megan.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. I didn't intend to be in a car, but I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. Well, I'm so happy you're here, Dr. Megan. I love actually. I love having you on here. You're such a great person to talk to about nutrition, just a great person in general. And I don't know if you guys all know, Megan also has her own podcast, Vet Life Reimagined, and I think it's amazing what she's doing with that as well. So very happy you're with us today, Megan.
Thank you. I'm glad I could be here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to read your intro like we always do, and then we will dive right into it and definitely have a great conversation. So Dr. Megan Sprinkle is a board-certified veterinarian nutritionist and a veterinarian with over 10 years of experience. She's worked with well-known pet food companies like Royal Canin and Tiki Cat, as well as consulting companies helping turn science into real-life nutrition for pets. Beyond nutrition, she's passionate about possibilities in veterinarian careers, innovation, and storytelling, so much so that she started her own podcast, Vet Life Reimagined. Megan is also a mom to a 9-month-old human, that is, and a 6-year-old Great Dane. She loves bringing curiosity, creativity, and passion to everything she does, especially when it comes to helping pets that live their best lives. Everyone, please help me welcome Dr. Megan Sprinkle.
So glad you can join us today. I know it's been a challenging morning for us. You can vent a little if you like before you get started, because I know it's like, whew, you made it. Yeah, so.
Well, I won't necessarily vent, but
Mhm,
it does have a great way to start our conversation today
mhm,
because I've actually been traveling a lot recently and I am seeing more and more pets traveling in airports. And
mhm.
I'm talking even cats.
Yeah.
I'm seeing cats in backpacks, and
Yep.
so I am seeing all sorts of pets in the airport with me.
Mhm,
Even small airports, I always see a pet when I travel. And it is so hard to be able to prepare for them. I'm not traveling with a pet, but I am traveling with that 9-month-old human. And,
mhm,
it's hard enough trying to make sure that you have enough food to take care of them. But if you think about like my situation today, this was supposed to be a pretty simple trip. I am leaving from a tiny little airport in Savannah, and I have a direct flight that the flight itself is just over an hour, right? So this seems so simple. And yet we get to the airport and there is a 3-hour delay. So if you can think about, thinking something's going to be simple, oh, I'm going to get to my destination very quickly. But then you have like a pet that you're having to
right.
be with. They need to eat. They need all of those things too. So being able to think about like the what if scenarios and be
Right.
prepared, because there's nothing in an airport there's no dog food in airports. At least I haven't seen one yet. If anyone sees one, you take a picture and send it to me because I would love to see that.
You know what?
But
You know what? Greta and I saw it in, where were we? We were in No, we were in Vegas, right? Where we saw it
oh
in the airport in
Las
Vegas. They
Yes.
it was surprising. They actually had a vending machine in Vegas that was geared towards pets, which I was like, oh my God, that's such a wonderful idea. I don't remember what they had. I think they had small treats inside, but I did notice also in one of the little shops inside the airport in Vegas, they had I think they sold like milk bone dog biscuits in a little packet, which you don't normally see. And I was
yeah.
surprised to see that. But that's the only place I've ever seen it. Now, I don't know with your travels, Greta, have you seen it elsewhere besides being in that Vegas airport? Have you seen it elsewhere?
No, no, I haven't. And that's why I was so surprised and happy. I took a picture of it and put it on
Yeah,
social media.
yeah.
But it was, and it was from a company that actually we follow and they follow us, Posh something, but the company itself is out of California, out of Los Angeles.
Mhm.
And that I recognized them. I was excited because I knew who they were. And they're like like a doggy boutique. So they had like little things from their boutique in there, including some snacks, dog biscuits and stuff like that. But yeah, to your point, that's probably the only one I ever saw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
yes, indeed.
love that. But
Mhm.
if you think about even that, that's a treat. It's not complete and balanced. So if anything like really bad happened and you
Right.
were delayed really long time, of course that's better than nothing in a pinch, but not having that food. And then again, back to having cats more travel, like cats are even pickier and particular about their food, especially when they are stressed. And unless you just have a cat that's very accustomed to traveling, which I do know a few, um,
Mhm.
you know, they
Right.
they actually do best with what's familiar. So being able to prepare and make sure that you have the food that they're accustomed to with you is always a great idea. So
Mhm.
yeah, I just again my own situation just kind of sparks even for further validation that there are challenges and opportunities for pet parents until we can get more, vending machines in airports.
Right.
It's something to definitely think about.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm
Absolutely.
glad you brought that up. Great
Well,
observation.
for people
No, go ahead.
Well, for people who do not know you, why don't you tell us about yourself and Vet Light Reimagined, and how it began.
Yeah. So Valet Free Imagine was my pandemic endeavor, like you
Mhm,
did with this
mhm.
when pets fly. So I was noticing a lot of veterinary professionals who were either burning out or they either felt stuck or they just didn't know what else to do with their career. They just were not very happy. And what I started to realize is that they had no idea all the different places that veterinary professionals can be. And Nelva, you're a great example. Like, how
Mhm,
many people knew that Delta has a veterinarian, right?
mhm. Right.
So veterinarians and veterinary technicians can do so many different things, and I wanted to make sure that our colleagues do that. So I get to bring people from all over that have amazing career stories and are
Mhm,
amazing human beings in general, and they get to share their stories and what gets them excited about being in veterinary medicine. And so I absolutely love it. I've been doing it for almost 3.5 years.
mhm,
And it is a podcast. It's also on YouTube. And I even get people who are not necessarily veterinary professionals. Um, I have one who he's a dad of a girl who's interested in animals and she's going through college and he listens to my podcast every week. And so I think that's amazing because I think, people are really fascinated by the veterinary industry. A lot of people may have wanted to be a vet when they were little. And so being able to hear these really cool stories and what we're doing in the profession, I think is really exciting. And I love being a part of it.
I I think it's great what you're doing because um, you hear stories about people saying that they wanted to be a veterinarian, but they weren't comfortable with euthanasia, so they decided not to go into the profession because they weren't comfortable, realizing that, or not knowing that that maybe is a small aspect of the career. And also, you don't necessarily have to be in clinical practice or be exposed to something like that. The profession is so big, and I guess my career, I started out a little bit different. I mean, I did clinical practice for a year, but I went back to school for veterinary pathology. So I saw a different route. So I already initially started seeing that there's different opportunities in the profession that will take me out of the clinical practice environment. And that's how I just realized that, there's other opportunities out here. And I just always looked for opportunities and kept going. And with that, as far as veterinarians, we have to realize sometimes you might have to try something new. You might have to get an additional degree under your belt or something, but the straight 4 years DVM, you might be stuck, but you might have to try other opportunities, explore the opportunities, and see where that leads you. And that's kind of what I did basically. Just took opportunities and take chances. I mean, I didn't take chances to go all over the whole world, but I was in a certain realm. I decided I wanted to work in a certain sector. I wanted to be in a certain part of the United States, and that's what I did. And just be open to opportunities. So I think that's one thing young veterinarians need to realize. Take a chance, take an opportunity. Get that additional degree, get it done early. Don't be like me waiting 20 years into my career and then getting an MPH. It was rough, but still take these chances and opportunities to see where they lead and take chances because nothing's perfect, but you just got to find your path, basically. Find your path.
Exactly. I think if anybody is familiar with Dr. Andy Rourke, I think he calls it the veterinary degree is just a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one door into a house
Mm-hmm.
of many rooms. There's so many different opportunities, and just being able to peek into what other people have done might spark what makes you interested. And you don't have to do the huge step right out of the gate, right? You don't have to immediately go get your MPH. Maybe just try something or go to a particular talk at a continuing education event or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, right? You just try a little bit, and when you like something, lean into it. Try a little bit more. And if you identify something you hate, then, you know, lean away from it.
Right,
So,
right,
very gradual steps.
right. I think it's great what you're doing, though. And it's nice for the younger generation to see also that there's opportunities. Again, I'm an old timer. I'm sorry, I graduated a long, long time ago. So for mine was like trial and error. So right now, the generations now, you've got podcasts that you share information, and there's opportunities for them to see there's more than just say clinical practice for your career. You can actually do multiple things and consult or pharmaceutical companies, and there's just so many opportunities out there.
Yes, absolutely. So I am seeing a question
Well,
about,
what made you want to
Mhm.
yeah,
specialize?
yeah, especially in nutrition.
I was
So
just saying, what?
yeah, so my story goes back way far as well. And my first interest when it came to animals, I love marine mammals and zoo and conservation. And so I've had a lot of experience with those animals. And I did get to travel. So I've
Mhm.
even been to Zambia working with
Oh
the
wow.
Elephant Orphanage Project. So I loved it. That was my thing. And but as I started to progress through vet school and everything, and do these opportunities, like, right, lean into what you're
Mhm.
interested in. What I found out was, oh, I actually don't want to be a zoo veterinarian because I see what the zoo vets are doing. What I'm really interested in is the nutrition component of taking care of these animals.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
any of those experiences, I kept focusing on the nutrition side and realized that that's really where I wanted to dedicate my career to. And so from there, I kind of followed the traditional path that we think of as a veterinarian, and that was to first do an internship, and that
Mhm.
was a rotating internship. So I got to experience emergency medicine and all of that fun stuff, and then went into a clinical nutrition residency. So that was my path to focus into
Mhm.
nutrition.
It's perfect. Yeah, I agree with you totally. You have to lean into
Wow.
decide what you like in your career. Early on with me, it's funny when I went. I always wanted to be a veterinarian, but I didn't. And what aspect that I only saw was clinical practice. But I wanted to be a veterinarian. Once I got into veterinary school, I got introduced. Second year, I got introduced to veterinary pathology, and I fell in love with pathology. So that was my everything I did. I mean, summer positions, jobs. I was pathology. What I forget what we called it, but it was more. I was pathology crew. I was one of the crew members, and I worked the summers, and I just fell in love with it, and that was the path I was going. So when you find something you really like, just lean into it. But the interesting thing about it, even with pathology, I did that for many years of my careers, but I felt that it limited me in certain aspects of what I was doing, and I decided to get an MPH to open the door to another sector, basically in the profession. And now I can use basically. I look at it now. I look back. I use everything that I've done in my whole career in the role that I'm doing right now. So, you know, you don't always, I mean, there's certain things veterinarians can do in their career and might say, okay, I don't really like this anymore and I'm going to try this. And then as you move along, you realize every aspect that you've learned or gained, you still utilize it as you go along and you just further develop as a veterinarian, and develop a niche basically. So, but I love the profession, to be honest with you. I really do.
I think that's a great point to highlight is that, I think sometimes people are like, well, I've gone to school for this, I've worked so hard for this, why should I change? Or, like all that I've done is a waste. But it's not. It's
Yeah.
not at all. You will
Hmm.
take everything that you have learned and you will carry that forward. And I
Hmm.
think that's another thing that's so special about having veterinary professionals in so many different areas because we bring this very unique perspective to that situation. And so when you have these multiple perspectives, especially if, here we're talking about animal health, you're going to have a more holistic, group of people taking care of these animals. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that's such a good call out.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. So when it comes to a healthy diet for our pets, for cats and dogs in particular, what does that look like? We hear people always say do a healthy diet, but I guess for simplicity's purpose, what does that contain? Like, is it like humans where you need something from all four food groups, or is there something that should be focused in on to create a healthy gut?
Yeah, it's a great question, and kind of the answer is yes to all of that. It's just in a slightly different way because we get to feed our pets a little bit differently than humans. So yes, we basically take all the different food groups, right, that a cat or a dog needs. And we're specifically looking at the nutrients, and we're able to make sure that they are getting all of the nutrients that they need in the one single food that you feed. So, number one thing that we're thinking about with a healthy diet is making sure that it's complete and balanced. And that's what, as a nutritionist, I was talking about milk bones, it's good for a
Yeah.
treat, but ideally that would be complete and balanced meal for the pet. So yes, absolutely. We're able to do that a lot easier than in people. Unless I'm sure someone out there would be like, you made Lucky Charms complete and balanced, and I'd eat Lucky Charms. Nothing but that. So a little bit different for cats and dogs, but yeah, that's the number one thing. But you made a good point too. The nutrition is so integral into everything, even in our medical health care. So, as we're learning more about science and we're learning how connected nutrition is to everything in the body, right, including the microbiome and the gastrointestinal tract, right, the food impacts our gastrointestinal tract. So, this is where I like to focus on making sure that the diet that you pick is very personalized to your pet. And some of this is going to be working with your veterinarian to make sure that you are addressing all of your pet's specific needs. And you'll know, right, if there's good stool quality, right, or if there's not good stool quality. Maybe there's something that we can do with the diet. So it's always good to work with the veterinary team to make sure that you are doing something that's addressing all the needs, and diet is a perfect place to start with that.
Yeah, it's a challenge right now because again
That's great.
we got social media and everyone's always posting on what they feed their pet, and you see I've seen reels of folks showing what they feed their say pit bull or whatever, and it'd be raw chicken with the bone and all this other stuff, and it's like wow, is that really balanced? I mean, is that good? Is that healthy? Again, dogs always say carnivore. Dogs are not true carnivores or omnivores. Cats are the true carnivores. I mean, is that ideal? But again, it's on social media, and it looks like I guess it's good. It's it's deceiving in a lot of ways what you see right now on social media because you don't know for the general public how would they know the right thing to do for their pet. So that's when you do actually, as you said, you need to work with your veterinarian and determine what is the best needs for your pet and everything for their nutrition.
Exactly. Yep. Um, and again, the combination of you as the pet owner and the veterinary team is so crucial because you know your pet very, very well. Your veterinary team knows medicine really well and biology, and the combination is going to pick, the right option. Because I also want to make sure that it's something that the pet parents feel comfortable with as well, because there's lots of different ways of feeding, like you were mentioning, raw meat and a bone. And I certainly wouldn't want somebody who was like immunocompromised or something like that that would be feeding raw food because that's
Right.
a public health risk. So, like there's so many components to feeding that, you may not even be thinking about. And so, yes, having a team behind you to help make the best decision for your pet is always a good way to go.
So to back up for a second, what makes a complete and balanced meal? So when you say that, the first thing that pops in my mind is because we've all been told this. What's complete and balanced for a human is all four food groups. Is there a formula for cats and dogs that make complete and balanced?
That's a great question. So this is what nutritionists do. So we have about 40 different nutrients, and I that's proteins, specific amino acids, calcium, phosphorus, like all of these nutrients that we're looking at. And for pet food specifically, there are rules around, or guidelines, I should say, about the minimum amount that you need of that nutrient. And then for some of them, not all of them, but some of them have a maximum too. So we want to target like that sweet spot of making sure they have their minimum and, of course, avoiding maximums for all 40 of these nutrients. So ours is a little bit more chemistry, I guess, biochemistry, than, making sure you're eating the rainbow or something like that. We get
Right.
really down into the nutrient level. So that's what, when we say complete and balanced, that's what we mean, is that it is meeting all of the minimum requirements of those 40
Mhm.
nutrients. And we have AFCO as a big guide that we use. Of course, it's enforced by FDA and other regulatory bodies, but AFCO provides a lot of the guidelines for those things. And then, of course, the flip side, and not a lot of people may think about that too, is you want to avoid the maximums. Just, more is not always better of things. And so we want to
Mhm.
make sure that we are following all of those guidelines.
Yeah, you make me think because what I always say, what pet owners will think is if the little is good, then giving more, they think it's even better. But no, no, that's not the case because you don't want to overdo it too. So I definitely agree there. Definitely agree.
Um, I hate when you are on social media and you see one thing and you're like, oh, I got that down. And then you see something that counteracts it. So I do, it's everybody feeds some human foods to their cat or dog or even horse or birds. Are there, is there human foods that you can recommend for a healthy diet for cats and dogs?
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that because I have a young daughter, and I was pulling old episodes of Reading Rainbow. If people remember Reading Rainbow, like this is my generation, and they did an episode about pets,
Yeah.
and they highlighted this gentleman, and he loved his bird so much. But then I saw him feed his bird like pizza. Oh, it was spaghetti. It was spaghetti. And I was like, no. Don't feed the bird spaghetti. So yes, there are opportunities where there might be some okay human foods to feed our pets. Of course, usually it's very moderation, right? And then of course there are some that are toxic, so avoid those, like raisins and chocolate, those kinds of
Right.
things. But
Mhm.
so yes, I think the human animal bond is so important, and if you want to feed a little bit of human food to your pet, again, in moderation. And again, working with your veterinary team, because there's certain situations where it might not be a great idea. Like maybe if your pet's on a diet, or if they have a certain health concern, or maybe
Allergies.
there's a nutrient of concern.
Mhm.
So the first one that pops into my head for some reason is heart disease. If you have a pet with heart disease, you really want to watch their sodium content.
Mhm.
And it is crazy how much sodium is in people food. So it's just something to, again, bring up. So the answer is probably yes, in moderation. But again, for certain health concerns, you do want to be mindful of maybe which people food to use.
Right. Well, enlighten me, enlighten others. What's the problem with birds and
I know.
spaghetti? I
Uh, Well, so birds they need a very particular diet, and I am not a bird expert, but I do know that their main diet is not pasta.
right,
So,
right.
but yeah, this is again another opportunity to really do your research. Actually, exotic medicine, the number one usually issue, or the reason that they have to go to a vet for a health issue, is a nutritional issue.
Right. You're right.
Because they just have a particular diet that they need. And even things that you think would be, oh, birds eat seeds, right? Well, yes, but maybe not again, moderation maybe, right?
Right.
Because I've seen some where they feed too much seeds, it's too much fat, and you can cause problems. So again,
Right.
it's that opportunity to know your pet, but really make sure that you're working with your healthcare team to make sure that you are doing what that particular pet needs. And I think exotic are even more
Yeah.
so. It's harder for them because there's not always the super easy, oh, complete imbalance,
Right.
for all of them.
Right. You make me think of when you say that for exotics, I think of guinea pigs and scurvy being vitamin C deficiency in them.
Yep.
But you're right. The thing about it is, you're right. And well, I have never seen, but are there? I don't think there's you go to the soup, you go to your PetSmart, whatever, and you can see foods for your dogs is supposed to be balanced for your dogs, foods is balanced for your cats. I don't think I've ever seen guinea pig food. I don't think I've ever seen maybe rat. I don't know, but I don't really see anything that's really geared for these different exotic animals that's well developed that they have prepared for your routine dogs and cats. I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah.
So it does make it difficult because again, you get a pet owner with a bird and they say, well, they eat seed and that's all they feed them. And then they become deficient in other things too. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
those.
and some of them do. Some of them do have, like, you might be able to find a rabbit pellet,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so important for rabbits, for example, to have uh, hay and roughage. So, like Timothy hay, for example, because if they don't have that ability to eat that roughage, they
Mm-hmm.
can get dental issues, they can
Yes.
get GI issues. So, even the ones that say they're complete feeds, it's not like the whole story. So, I'm so sorry for the people out there who have exotic pets. Again, work with your veterinary
Yeah.
team, do a lot of research on making sure you kind of understand what their needs are because, yeah, unfortunately, it's a little bit more challenging for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Nelva, I don't know
Absolutely.
how often have you
So
seen,
Wait.
have you, Nelva, I was curious, do you have any fun examples of exotics traveling?
I have a funny story about a we had they were shipping and
Possums?
opossums and we got a contact back saying that they arrived but they one of the opossums they felt was dead upon arrival and I followed up a day later to say is I said we didn't find any problems with the shipment. There was no evidence of any damage to the container. Everything was perfectly fine. So just following up, whatever happened. And they said, oh, the opossum was playing possum. He was fine. Yeah, he was fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Love it. I
So
knew you would have a good story.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's one thing with animals though. Transporting it, there are different behaviors you have to consider and understand with them too. But yeah, it basically was playing possum in that situation. But yeah, things you notice, things that happen. Unfortunately, it's scary. But again, we do our best to get the animals there safely and investigate situations. And again, there was no evidence of damage, nothing. Everything was perfectly fine. But it was playing possum. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Yeah.
That's why you need a veterinarian on the team.
Yes. Yes. I was telling Greta earlier, I don't know why. And maybe, again, maybe I really hope and pray in the future that our profession, we can actually, maybe I'm the person to open the door for us to work in different industries. But as you know, anywhere animals are, I feel and veterinarians need to be there, having some oversight, some impact on for their welfare. And as you know, with your experiences being in the zoo environment, you see how important it was for it to have a veterinarian in that environment. And even with you, you deciding that you want to specify and stay with nutrition, you still need people in those areas that focuses on nutrition for these animals because the veterinarian role in itself, keeping them healthy and other things, you need someone else that has an expertise in nutrition to assist with that whole process. But there's so many different ways we can utilize our career. But again, if there's animals involved, we need to be there. So in the airline industry or any other transportation industry that's transporting animals, we need to be there, in my opinion.
Love it.
What else we got?
are there ingredients or in the store-bought, I'm waiting for, there we go. Are there ingredients in the store-bought foods that we should avoid when picking them up for our cats and dogs?
Mhm. Like, I'm not sure if
Or the reverse, what should we be looking for?
I'm
I'm
guessing
sorry.
the question is specifically around like store-bought pet food and not like, human foods. I think, are we moving back to pet food? Okay. Uh, ooh,
Yes.
ingredients that should be avoided. Um, this one might be, I'm trying to think of an example of something to avoid. Again, if there's certain health conditions, there might be some concerns, especially like if you think that your pet may have a food allergy. I have a dog who has a food allergy, and that can be really challenging to find food that works well for those pets. So that one would be one. Again, you're probably going to be looking to avoid certain things, specifically proteins for them. So again, having your veterinary team that can kind of help you know what to look for those diets is maybe a good example. And maybe what should they look for in the food ingredients? I will say, because this has come up before too, especially with so many different food options for pets, is, there was a fresh food that I saw, and they said it was complete and balanced, but there were no vitamins or minerals in the pet food. And it is really hard to balance pet food without some type of supplemented vitamins and minerals. So it's one of those that, I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they know this very special formula. I'm not quite convinced, but maybe an opportunity to call the company and just maybe get clarification. But to make pet food is really, it's hard. It is not easy, and so you really want to make sure that you have the right. Again, back to having a veterinarian on the team. There's a lot of people, a lot of experts in different areas that go into making pet food, and so you want to make sure that everybody is involved with pet food and make sure that that things are complete and balanced. So that's kind of what comes to mind for me.
Okay.
Yeah, what you make me think of as far.
So I think this question will hit a little bit.
No, I was going to just
Go
add to
ahead.
something
I'm sorry.
you mentioned. I was going to add to something you mentioned. You're right, and just reiterate allergies. One thing I used to love. This was years ago. I loved working with when the PetSmart Banfield was inside PetSmart in some locations, and I would love because say if I suspected a dog or cat having allergies, food allergies, you can go to the into the supermarket part inside PetSmart and get food brands and look at the ingredient panel for them to understand what they're looking for to determine. Because you have some that say, I know I was trying to get them to lamb and rice at the time with diets that's supposed to be lamb and rice, and you get one brand and the first ingredient will be um, chicken then lamb. Like, no, don't use that one. And so just trying to teach people things about that for the ingredient panel and what to look for is really, really important kind of thing, especially when, again, you've got a pet that has food allergies, which you have, and any other conditions. Say, as you mentioned earlier, if they have heart problems and sodium levels, I'm sure information like that is on the ingredient panels too, or somewhere on there where you can research that information. But the ingredient panel, reading that is very important with your pets when they have certain conditions, again, such as allergies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I'm sorry, go ahead, Greta. What question did you have?
Oh, no. I figured since Dr. Sprinkle was just recently traveling, this next question probably would be a little more poignant in her answering. So, especially like when you've got a baby and stuff like that. But if you're traveling, what would you do to make sure your pet continued their healthy diet? And I think this is a major concern for every pet parent. And that's why they think of continuing with their currently feeding at home and getting it to where they are. But what do you suggest with this?
Yes, absolutely. Try to just, bring the pet's original food, especially like on the plane. Maybe if you are getting to your location and you know there's going to be a Petco, PetSmart, whatever, wherever you buy the food. Like if you're going for an extended period of time and you can buy their food there, but definitely for the traveling, maybe over bring just a little bit, just in case that there's some, issues with traveling. I feel like there have been more and more travel issues over the past few years, but you never know, and so it's always good to be prepared. And it also, I'm just trying to think too, because there's back to what I said, there's so many different formats of food these days. There's kibble, wet food, especially for cats. There's fresh food. There's freeze dried. There's
Yeah.
all sorts of foods. And so if you are a person that does feed fresh food, think about that too, and that you're going to need a cooler and all of that. And Nelva, maybe you can bring in some insight too. I know with me traveling with an infant, they do pull my bag, but and test it. But at least I'm allowed to travel with, milk for her. But just to make sure that you've got that prepared for the trip is that's kind of additional things you kind of have to think about is like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
now I need a cooler to keep it fresh and all of that. So, and that does make it a little bit more bulky and you're having to go through TSA. But I don't know, Nelva, if you have any other thoughts about traveling with things like that.
No, I would think it would be really difficult if you had feeding more of the fresh foods and everything with your pet and traveling because again, you want to keep it refrigerated. I'll be honest with you, most cases I've seen that go by cargo, they're required. Well, they're not required, but they highly recommend that you put in small baggies of food, attached to a container, just in case say there's a layover and it can be fed, something like that. But for them on their person, well, in those situations, no, it's never been fresh food like that because there's no way to keep it refrigerated properly and everything with it. So kibble is kind of you could say the standard way that I've seen primarily. But for those again that are going in cabin and traveling with the food, I'm sure it's a challenge. I'm sure it is definitely a challenge, and maybe a lot of times I wonder if people even get to the point where they're thinking about it, which we want them to think about in advance. But for the consistency, do they either buy it when they get to their destination? Hopefully, they can find it there. Or I mean, I don't know what they do, but you have to maintain consistency is the main thing behind it.
Yeah. I mean, again, feeding fresh is getting more and more popular. So
Mhm.
you do see fresh food in everything from Walmart to Petco and
Mhm.
PetSmart. So it is possible to potentially, again, find it in wherever destination you're going. But again, especially for the traveling part, is thinking about having to carry at least some on you. You can take it through, I'm pretty sure, but you do have to have a cooler and everything
Mhm.
to keep it fresh for an appropriate amount of time. Not something you can just throw in you know, a plastic bag
Right,
and
right,
and stuff it in your bag. So yeah, it does take a little bit more forethought.
yeah.
I know that I have recommended to people, so you're not so weighed down, um, to either look and see if you can get it at your store where you're going, or if you know there's no store, your brand of store where you're going, have it shipped to the hotel or the house where you'll end up so that it will be there when you arrive. And then the other thing that I have also recommended is, you know, uh, I think on the most part, cats and dogs, they end up liking freeze dried or dehydrated foods. So when you add a little water to them, they end up being a fresh human food. So I've suggested to people taking the dehydrated, I'm sorry, not refried, but dehydrated and foods so that they can um, uh, add a little water when they get there, and that'll be a nice treat. But it's healthy, and it travels well and all that good stuff. So those are the two things I've always recommended.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, again, I think I picked a really interesting uh, niche in the veterinary industry of nutrition because there's so many different things that are coming out. We're able to pull not only like biological science, but also technology and doing all sorts of things with trying to meet different needs in different ways. So yeah, the more that we travel with our pets, the more opportunities that you're throwing our way to be able to be creative and come up with new solutions.
Mhm. Definitely. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, besides food, what are some healthy treats that you recommend to have for your travels?
Yeah. Oh, for travels too. Um, ooh, I think finding something that is a high reward might be really good for traveling, especially if your pet it has some anxiety around traveling, because even though we can do our absolute best to prepare, we bring the exact diet they eat, and we're doing everything absolutely right. Sometimes the stress of travel um, makes them not interested in eating, and so having some treats that might be like their absolute favorite, they've never turned it down in their life, having some high reward treats might be really good to bring. Another thing that came to mind too is like for my dog, she only gets two a week, but I do have a dental chew, which for her is a very high reward. But also for traveling, again, if you're in airports and things that might also be kind of like a toy and a treat put together, so that as long as it's not too bulky and it's comfortable enough for you to travel with, that might be something also to think about is and there maybe a normal dental chew that you would give, that one that is that they end up eating. So there's some opportunities there too that maybe kind of do some environmental enrichment to kind of soothe them as well. So something that they really, really love, that might be the opportunity to pack some of those too.
That's a good idea.
Oh, that's great.
Well,
We
we are
did answer
almost.
that question.
Well, that's
Oh, sorry. Oh, I realized I answered that in the context of travel. I don't remember if that was the original intent of the question, but hopefully that was okay.
No, that was fine. Perfectly fine.
yes, yes,
Perfectly fine.
Okay.
I was about to say time flies as usual. We are almost done. Where I got
Yeah.
a couple minutes left and everything. I want to just say I'm very happy you joined us today, and I love that your ideas of travel. You're traveling, and you gave your observations as a traveler with your perfect timing and everything. So I love it, Dr. Megan, when you're with us. I think you're a great benefit to having you on our show every single time, sharing as far as nutrition and needs during transport, and just cool having you around. I love that we met.
Oh, thank you. And if
absolutely.
anybody has nutrition questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and send them my way. I'm happy to answer them.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn more from Dr. Megan Sprinkle and listen to her podcast, Vet Life Reimagined, then visit buzzsprout.com. And you can also watch it on her YouTube channel, Vet Life Reimagined. And so I just wanted to clarify, your Vet Life Reimagined, you're bringing on veterinarians and they're discussing how they have taken their veterinarian degree and expanded it to whole new worlds, correct?
Veterinarians and veterinary technicians, and so all members of the veterinary team, but absolutely yes.
Okay, fantastic. And if you want to follow Dr. Megan Sprinkle and Vet Life Reimagined on social media, They are on both Facebook and Instagram. So definitely check her out. Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Sprinkle, for joining us today from your car during your travels. It was great to see you once again. And as always, a pleasure speaking with you about healthy nutrition and our pets.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Megan. Really, really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you so much.
So for now, everyone, this is the end of our program, but we look forward to seeing you twice next week, a special episode on Wednesday, and then our regular episode next Friday. But for now, this is a goodbye, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. We're still live. You click it?
I pushed end stream.